Most people know that cruising during hurricane season can mean cheaper fares, but a few added risks. But that's only part of the picture. After getting caught in a few storms on our cruises, I'll reveal the lesser-known facts that can make all the difference in how safe and smooth your trip actually is, plus 2 costly misconceptions that most people have. You may have heard that cruising during hurricane season sounds like asking for trouble, right? But here's the catch. What they don't tell you is that cruise lines are absolute pros at dodging storms. Here's a fun fact. An average hurricane moves forward 11 to 12 miles an hour, and an average cruising speed of a ship is 20 to 25 land miles per hour. So this means that ships can move faster than hurricanes, and they can literally outrun the weather while using their fancy stabilizers to keep things steady even if the seas get a little bumpy. However, as much fun as that sounds, they don't really have to do that. They're watching the weather way before it becomes dangerous, and they're working out a plan B, plan C, and as many plans as they need. Some cruise lines even have their own meteorologist. Yep, that's right, real-time weather updates, all to make sure that your vacation stays safe and not a scene out of a disaster movie. And don't worry about the crew, they've seen it all. Those people are trained for anything from dodging storms to making sure your drink service isn't disrupted. So the next question is, should you cruise during the hurricane season? And you've probably heard it's not worth the risk. But here's the part that they don't mention, it actually can be one of the best times to cruise. Why is that? Several reasons. For starters, it's often way cheaper because cruise lines have great deals because so many people are scared off by the word hurricane. Now, it's also good because it's not as blazing hot, so you can enjoy excursions and beach days without turning into a red lobster. But here's something else. If you want to go to the beach in the fall, it's actually better than booking a stay at a resort. You see, hotels are stuck on land, but cruise ships can move. So if a storm is coming, the ship just sails somewhere else to avoid it. While people on land are battering down the hatches, you can be sipping pina coladas on a pool deck in a perfect weather. So it's kind of like having a vacation with a built-in escape plan. By the way, if you like this video, hit that like button. And if you have any questions that I don't cover, drop them below in the comments and I will be happy to answer. You may have heard that travel insurance is your golden ticket during the hurricane season. Well, yes and no. Here's the deal. Travel insurance will usually cover things like flight delays and cancellations if the storm causes issues. But if you suddenly get cold feet and decide that you don't want to go just because there's a storm in the forecast, you're out of luck. If the cruise is still sailing, your insurance won't cover your changing your mind. So here are some tips to dealing with travel insurance. First, you've got to buy that insurance before the storm has a name. Once it's named a storm, let's say Hurricane Freddy, the insurance companies won't let you buy a policy to cover cancellations because Freddy is getting angry.
Oh, they said, you don't have insurance here, so stop calling us.
Next, if the cruise line cancels your trip, most likely you'll get a refund from the cruise company directly. But here's the big one. If your flight gets delayed or canceled, don't assume you're automatically covered. With some insurance companies, you actually have to prove that you missed at least 50% of your trip and made a solid effort to continue your traveling. So before you head home thinking you just can file a claim, call your travel insurance company, figure out what their rules are, and work with them while you're figuring out either how to arrange the trip changes or cancel everything and stay home. You may have heard that you should plan out your whole cruise a long time before you sail, but that's not always true during the hurricane season. The key to cruising successfully during this time is flexibility. First, fly in early, and I'm talking 2 days early if you can, not just the day before. Storms can cause all kinds of delays and cancellations, and you don't want to be the one missing your ship because of a grounded flight. Now here's something that most people don't think about. Ships may leave the port early to dodge the storm or even stay out at sea longer if it's unsafe for them to return to port. So flexibility is your best friend here. You may have heard that packing for a cruise is simple, just bring your swimwear and a sunscreen. But during the hurricane season, there are a few extra things you'll want to toss in your bag. First is pack a few extra clothing items and extra medication in case your cruise gets extended due to weather. The last thing you want is to be stuck at sea for an extra day or two without a fresh outfit or your essential medications. Another tip is to have a backup plan for ground transportation. If you're flying to port, hurricanes can really mess with flight schedules and you don't want to be scrambling last minute. So it's a good idea to keep the emergency fund for unexpected hotel stays, flight changes, or transportation issues. And finally, if you're within driving distance of your port, consider driving instead of flying, because you can avoid the hassle of airport delays, and if you park with a full tank of gas, you'll be in control of your own return, even if there are local gas shortages. You may have heard to choose your cruise based on the itinerary and the ports you want to visit. But when cruising during the hurricane season, you need to expect the unexpected. Itinerary changes are very common.
We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Ports can be missed or swapped out at the last minute, and while the cruise line will try to make up to you with an alternative stop, don't expect a refund just because you missed your dream destination. What you will get though are refunds for port charges and excursions booked through the cruise line. Now, here's the tricky part. If you booked your excursion with an independent company, they may not offer a refund if the ship does not make it to port. So what are your choices? Well, you can book through the cruise line. You can choose a third-party vendor that guarantees refunds in case the ship doesn't make it to port, or you can just play by ear and explore on your own. That way you don't have anything pre-booked. What you want to avoid is booking direct with any non-refundable fees, unless, of course, you have the cruise insurance that will cover it, which gives you the most peace of mind. If you're cruising in the hurricane-prone regions like Eastern Caribbean or Bahamas, know that changes are going to be more likely. But here's a tip. If you want a more reliable trip, head down to the South Caribbean, for example, the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, because they see fewer hurricanes and are less likely to disrupt your plans. You may have heard that seasickness is a guaranteed part of cruising during hurricane season. But here's the truth. Rough seas are more likely, but they don't have to ruin your trip. First things first, always pack seasickness medication even if you have the stomach of steel. During the storm, even seasoned cruisers can feel the effects, and trust me, you don't want to be caught off guard when the ship starts to rock. Now, ship size matters too. Larger ships handle rough seas better than smaller ones, so if motion sickness is a worry, go for a bigger ship, and where you stay on the ship plays a huge role. Cabins in midship and on lower decks tend to feel less motion, while forward and aft cabins will have you feeling every wave. Now, the good news is most cruise lines will hand out free seasickness meds like it's Halloween candy to keep everybody comfortable if it gets really bad. So don't hesitate to grab some if things start get a little wobbly. And if you'd like to see more practical tips on getting the most out of your cruise, watch this playlist next. Or watch this other video that YouTube handpicked specifically for you.